Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're looking at economics, CSEC economics, and we are going to pick up right where we left off last video, where we're looking at the market forces. And so we are going to pick up, we looked at demand last time, and so we're going to look at the other side of the coin, which would be supply. So today we're looking at supply, and we're going to continue in objective number 3 for under section 3 in the economics CSEC economics syllabus. All right, so we're going to be looking at supply today. And so let's just jump right into it. Supply. What is supply and what are the laws of supply? So supply can be defined as quantity supplied is the amount of a good that sellers are willing and able to sell. Again, willing and able. Because like I said, for demand, some people might want something but they cannot buy it, so therefore they are not counted as part of the quantity demanded. So same way, the quantity supplied is the amount of goods that sellers are willing and able to sell, because if you cannot sell it, then you cannot supply it, so you're not a part of the supply. So you might be willing to supply something, you might be willing to supply luxury cars, you might be willing to supply 10 tons of gold or something, but you cannot do it, so therefore you are not a part of the market supply. All right, so supply is the amount of goods that sellers are willing and able to sell. So let's add this part to it. They are willing and able to sell at a particular price at a particular time. You have to add those parts to the definition. So the quantity supplied is the amount of a good that sellers are willing and able to sell at a particular time for a particular price. All right, as the textbook has it here, supply can be defined as the amount of a good or service a seller is willing and able to make available for sale at each price during a given price period. So, this is the textbook mouthful definition. So that is supply. Now, just like demand, we have the law of demand, we also have the law of supply. And the law of supply, once again, is basically very commonsensical, just like demand. And you are going to see it right here. All right, so the law of supply states that other things being equal, or ceteris paribus, as we looked at last time, ceteris paribus, other things being equal, the quantity supplied of a good rises when the price of the good rises. Again, the quantity supplied of a good rises when the price of the good rises. That is the law of supply. So what it's saying simply is that if you're a producer and you are making a certain item and the price of that item is going up, as in people are willing to pay more and more and more for that item, the price is going up, what are you going to do? Your main aim is to make a profit, also to maximize profit. So therefore, if the price is going up, you as a producer would be want to sell as many of your product as possible, as much as possible. All right, so you're going to want to sell as much as possible. Therefore, you are going to supply as much as you can. So if you are a supplier of, let's say, shoes, and the shoes are going up in price, first they were $10 a pair, then $20 a pair, $30, $40, $50, $60, $100 per pair. Of course, you being the entrepreneur that you are, you being the producer that you are, you want to maximize your profit. You want to make as much money as possible. So therefore, you're going to supply more and more and more and more as the price go up. So that's the law of supply right there. As the price go up, you supply more, and then vice versa. When the price start going down, you pull back. You pull back on the supply, and you start supplying less and less and less as the price goes down. So that's the law of supply in a nutshell. So as you can see, the relationship with supply and price is basically going in the same direction. They are positive. So when price goes up, supply goes up. When price goes down, supply goes down. This is the reverse of demand. Remember, in demand, as the price go up, you demand less as a customer. You want to spend so much money. And as the price go down, you demand more, as things are cheaper now, so you buy more. So supply, as the price goes up, the supply goes up, because you want to make as much money as possible in that time frame. So that is the law of supply in a nutshell. All right, now the schedule again, same as before. The supply schedule is the same as similar to the demand. It's just basically a table that shows the relationship between the price of the goods and the quantity supplied. So that's supply schedule. It's a relationship between the price of the goods and the quantity supplied, and it's in a tabular form. And again, here we are with the ice cream example. Ben's supply schedule. So UI person who makes the ice cream. So let's go to this schedule here. Remember, keep the law of supply in your mind when you're going through this. So the market price for ice cream is $0, right? Free. You as a supplier, not that foolish. You ain't giving away nothing for free because it costs you money to set up and to make. So how much do you give? Do you supply? $0. Zero ice cream cones. Zero. You ain't into charity here. So then the price goes up a bit. They say, okay, I give you 50 cents. How much are you willing to give me if I give you 50 cents? As a supplier, you be like, 50 cents is not even close to my startup cost. So I ain't playing that. Nothing. You supply zero again. All right, you supply zero here. So at $0 free, you supply zero. At 50 cents, it basically is free. You supply zero again. Then the market price start rising to $1 for the ice cream. $1. So when you see that, okay, your eyes open a little wider. $1. All right, I will supply one ice cream cone for $1. One for $1. Okay, good. The price goes up again to $1.50. You say, okay, $1.50. Okay, this is getting better. I supply two. Price goes up to $2. You say, oh yeah, man, things happening nice. So I supply three. $2.50. I supply four. $3. I supply five. So at $3 per cone, you say, I'm gonna supply five because the price is nice and high for me as a producer. So I'm gonna supply five. All right, so that's a lot of supply really coming out here. As the price increase, so does the amount you are willing and able to supply. It goes up. So then the supply schedule gives rise to the supply curve. What is the supply curve? It's just a drawing, a graphical representation of the relationship between price of a good and the quantity supplied. So the supply curve is the graph of the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity supplied. How does this graph look now? How do you expect it to look? Remember, the demand came from here, come down here. So the supply should be opposite, right? Because the relationships are different. They are positive, so you should have a positive slope. So here we go, supply curve. At what? At $1, you supply one cone. At $2, at $1.50, you supply two cones. At $2, you supply three cones. At $2.50, you supply four. At $3, you supply five cones. So as you can see, as the price goes up, the amount supplied also goes up, and this is the complete curve right there. All right, so as the price, you see, it's a positive sloping curve from right to left because it shows that as the price goes up, so does the quantity supplied. All right, so that's where we at with this one. All right, so the sidebar shows exactly what is going on. Again, just like the demand, the market supply curve refers to the sum of all the individual supplies for a particular good or service. Graphically, individual supply curves are summed horizontally to obtain the market curve. We're not going through all of that, but let's go. So let's go to the textbook and see exactly what the textbook is talking about as it relates to the supply curve. So supply schedule, a firm supply schedule is a table showing the quantity of the goods or services that a firm is willing to supply at various prices. From the supply schedule, a firm can construct a firm's supply curve, just as for the demand curve. So we already clear that. We understand what all that is about. All right. So let's move on. We looked at the industry curve and the individual, and industry is a combination of all the individual curves, just like it was for the demand. All right, so the industry curve is a combination of all the industry curve, these individual curves out there. So my supply, your supply, everyone's supply come together. That creates the industry supply curve. All right, so schedule right here, and then they have their graph right here. All right, so here we have it right there. So what's next? What do you have to look at next? Now, what determines supply? Remember, we looked at the movement in demand. Well, the same thing happens here again. Movement is caused by a change in the price of the product itself. The movement is caused by the change in the price. So let's look at that again to see how it is illustrated. Alright, so the movement, change in quantity supplied, a movement along the curve caused by a change in anything that alters the quantity supplied at each price. So we're talking about price here now. So again, look at this one again. So first, at $1, you say, okay, at $1 I supply one ice cream cone. So that's point A. Then let's say a rise in the price of ice cream cones result in a movement along the supply curve. So the cross ice cream cone gone up. So now you move along the curve, the price gone up to $3 now. So what happened? Based on the law, if the price goes up, what happens to supply? Supply also goes up. So supply moves up to 5. So this represents a movement along the supply curve. As the price go up, so does the quantity supplied of the ice cream cones. So that represents a movement along the supply curve all the way from A to point C. That's a movement along. Now let's look at the determinants of supply. We have 4 here. Let's go through them one at a time. We have input prices. Now, how can input prices affect the amount that someone can supply? Well, it's simple. Let's say that you are a farmer and you are producing carrots, and you can produce 100 bags of carrots for, let's say, $1 per bag. But then what happens if the price of carrot seed goes up? Goes up to a point where you can no longer afford the 100 bags anymore. So what happens to your supply? Your supply goes down, because the same, remember we under ceteris paribus conditions, meaning everything remains unchanged. So the only thing that's changing here is the price of the carrot seed. So the price of the carrot seed goes up, then you're going to supply less because you have less money now to buy. You have the same amount of money to buy less amount of seed. So let's look at the next example. Let's look at the car industry. What if the cost of aluminum goes up? What happens to the amount of cars that can be produced at the same price? Naturally, that goes down because it's more expensive now to buy the material. So now you can produce less. Let's look at the flip side. What if the cost of aluminum goes down? You know, things cheap now. What does that mean? That means you can now supply more cars because at the same budget level. So if you had 10,000 to invest in cars, you can supply more for the same 10,000 because the cost of aluminum has gone down. So input prices, whether they go up or down, can affect the overall production cost. And if the production cost goes up, the supply goes down. If production cost goes down, the amount you can supply goes up. So input prices, whichever way it goes, if it goes up, then supply goes down. If it goes down, then the amount you can supply goes up. So that's input prices. Technology, very easy, very common sense. It's an easy one to answer. Anyhow we see that on an exam, they ask what affects supply. One easy one is technology. What does technology do? It makes you more efficient. It makes work easier. It makes work go faster. So therefore, you can now produce more things with the same amount of resources you had before because of improvements in technology. Technology allows you to be more productive, more efficient. So improvements in technology causes supply to increase. You can supply more with the same resources because technology has allowed you to be more productive and more efficient. Same way, if you're using obsolete technology, then the supply would go down. You won't be able to maintain what level you had before because your technology is now obsolete, and so therefore your supply goes down. So that's technology. What about expectations? Again, similar to demand, expectations. Now let's say you're a farmer and you are moving closer to the summer. For those of us in the Caribbean, that's closer to hurricane season, coming out to hurricane season. Your mindset would be, if you see the forecast that there will be 10 deadly Category 5 hurricanes in the Caribbean this year. Of course, you're going to be more reluctant to start planting because your expectation is that hurricane going to come through, destroy my crops, so it doesn't make sense to plant. So therefore, the supply for that particular crop will go down. But if the flip side is true that this summer coming on, it's going to be nice and sunny, rain, good enough amount of rain, of course, as a farmer, you're going to supply more because the weather conditions are favorable for your crop. So your supply goes up. So that's a one way to explain expectations. If you expect something to be favorable to you, then the supply would go up. If you expect something not to be so advantageous to you, not so favorable, like the prices might drop or something, then you would supply less. So if you know the price of the product would go down, boom and bust, it go down, you're going to supply less. If you know your price is expected to go up, you're going to start supplying more. So that's how expectations affect your supply. What about the number of sellers? This is an obvious one. If you have 10 sellers in the market for a certain product, then that's the supply level. What if you get 20 now, supplying the same amount of, equal amount, 20 times how much? So now 10 extra suppliers in the market now. So now all of a sudden you have 10 times the amount you had before. So number of suppliers, if it increases, means supply of that product goes up. If it decreases, supply of that product goes down. If sellers say, hey, this market ain't sweet anymore, I closing up shop, then that means the supply of that product would fall. So all these things, these determinants of supply, would cause what you call a shift in the supply curve. Remember, only price causes movement. Now let's look at the shift. Let's look at the shift. Change in supply. A shift in the supply curve, either to the left or right. Now, it is caused by a change in any of the determinants other than price of the product itself. Other than the price. Let's look at it. Shift. Alright, so you see that? So you start in the middle. Now, if there's a shift to the left, then that indicates that supply has decreased. So, for example, it could be, the cost of inputs go up. It could be technologies becoming obsolete. It could be you have some, negative expectations. It could be that the number of supply in the market has fallen. So that would cause the supply to decrease and therefore a shift in the curve to the left. So again, a shift to the right indicates an increase in supply. And this means that one of the determinants, whether it is input prices went down, so that's favorable, you supply more. The expectations are positive, so therefore you supply more. The number of sellers has increased, it rose, so that's more. And so these are all the things that would affect the supply in a positive manner. So therefore, I shift to the right. All right, so let's see what the book has, since most of you might have the book. Determinants of supply, movement along the supply curve. So we looked at that already, so we're not going to go through that. But let's look at some of the determinants that the book outlines here. Alright, so here we go. Determinants. The price of the good itself, we know that, we understand that. That affects the supply. A price increases, ceteris paribus, quantity supplied increases. We know that. That's the law of supply right there. The greater the price, the higher the quantity the producer will wish to supply, ceteris paribus, to capitalize on the potential profits. The lower the price, the lesser the quantity the producer will wish to supply, ceteris paribus, all things remaining equal, to retain resources for more profitable use later on. Next determinant, we have here the price of factors of production, as we said earlier. So that's the same thing as input prices. So factors of production, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. If the cost of labor goes up, you're going to supply less because you have to pay more money now. If the cost of capital goes up, you supply less because it's more expensive. But if the cost of any factor of production goes down, that's positive. So that means if production cost goes down, you are going to supply more. Alright, so let's go again. So the price of factors of production, higher factor prices raise production costs. This causes profit to decline. Firms move out of these less profitable business activities and so supply falls. In contrast, lower factor prices reduce production costs and increase profits. This is an incentive for firms to increase supply. So again, lower factor prices, less supply, more supply, higher factor prices, less supply. Next determinant, we looked at technology already. Improvements in technology makes it possible for the firms to produce more goods using fewer resources and so lowering costs. This increases supply. Our next determinant, taxes and subsidies. So a tax would be akin to an increase in the production costs or increase in factor costs. So a higher tax, increase in tax would cause supply to go less, whereas a reduction in taxes would cause supply to increase because production is now cheaper. Subsidies are when the government assists you financially in production. So therefore, if subsidies are added to production, then your supply would go up, meaning it's cheaper for you to produce now. But if the subsidies are taken away, let's say a subsidy for electricity is taken away from the producer, now electric bill will go up and therefore your supply would fall because the cost of production is now higher. So businesses treat most taxes as a cost. The imposition of a tax has a similar effect to an increase in cost. Taxes therefore lead to a fall in supply. Subsidies reduce costs and lead to an increase in supply. Next determinant, number of sellers. Other things being equal, ceteris paribus. The larger the number of suppliers, the greater the industry's supply. A firm leads the industry, the total supply will fall, ceteris paribus. Then we have the prices of other goods. This one is not, we did not look at this one before. So the prices of other goods. A price of other goods increase, the suppliers earn more. The prices of other goods increase, these suppliers earn more profits. Ceteris paribus. This will induce firms to involve in activities that are not as profitable to switch production to more profitable goods. Production and supply of less profitable goods will fall. So what they're saying here is that if the realized market price, similar to the law of supply, if the market price of other goods go up in comparison to yours, then that would mean that you want to supply that product. If you look at the phone industry, everybody follows suit, following everybody. Samsung, Apple, everybody have 10 cameras down at the back. Everybody want 10 cameras because you put on an extra camera, you keep the price. Everybody want to be a part of that market. So when other goods prices go up, you want to emulate, you want to follow. So therefore you want to go into that market and supply more of that particular good. And of course, weather is a big one, especially for the agricultural industry. For agricultural commodities, a decrease in the supply can be caused by drought or unseasonal weather, which adversely affects the crop yields. Good weather can cause a bumper harvest and an increase in supply, as we looked at before when we were looking at expectations. So here the textbook outlines a few scenarios in which the shift in the supply curve occurs. They looked at technology and they looked at some other things. If you get a chance, you can read the examples that they show. See, for example, so improvements in technology allow the lower factor prices cause a shift to the right or downward of the supply curve, and an increase in the supply has been seen in figure 9.6. So the textbook gives a nice outline of some of these. Alright, so that was a quick look at the other market force, which is supply, and then there's the demand that we looked at last time, and then in part 3 of this we're going to bring them all together and look at the market in equilibrium. And equilibrium means when it is equal. Alright, so that's it for this particular video, this particular topic. So we have completed objective 3 and 4, and the next time we're going to look at the whole concept of market equilibrium and then move ahead with all the other things that relates to equilibrium. Alright, so let me just outline one thing here. If we look at objective number 7, use diagram to explain the non-price determinants of demand and supply. Now this is where we are talking about a shift in the demand and supply curve, and we looked at that already. We looked at things such as income, taste, and size of the population. So objective 7 has already been completed. We looked at that when we looked at demand separately and supply separately and the determinants, and we illustrate showing the shifts in the various curves from left and right. Also, they said to illustrate how changes to determinants affect equilibrium, price, and quantity. That we are going to jump on next time. So we can look at most of equilibrium next time. Alright, so you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when the part 3 of this exciting market force demand and supply video would have dropped. All right, so that's it for now.